UFC fight championships are awesome, and here are 5 championships that we never got to see. The first fight would be Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Tony Ferguson, UFC 249. This fight goes without saying. Nurmagomedov and Tony Ferguson have been linked to one another for 6 years. Injuries from both men derailed the fight on 4 separate occasions between 2015 and 2018, before the fight was rescheduled for a 5th time ahead of UFC 249, which was scheduled to a headline pay-per event in Brooklyn, New York. Of course, as we all know, the coronavirus derailed this potential mega fight and put a complete stop to the world as we know it. April 28th, 2020, the date the event was originally going to take place, is a day that will live in MMA infamy. The fight was canceled once again and was never rebooked. Ferguson would go on to lose to Justin Gaethje in an interim title bout, and then Nurmagomedov retired officially, ending any chances of a fight ever happening. In the number 2 spot, we got Jon Jones versus Dan Henderson, UFC 151. In 2012, the UFC's 3 biggest stars were Anderson Silva, Jon Jones, and Georges St. Pierre. Jones was the reigning light heavyweight champion and had just come off of a one-sided victory against former training partner and rival Rashad Evans. Jones was now seeking his next challenger, and Dan Henderson was the division's number 1 contender at the time. Up until UFC 151, the promotion had never postponed or canceled an event. Then, all of a sudden, disaster struck. Less than a week before the event, the UFC received word that Henderson, a former Strikeforce and Pride UFC champion, had partially torn his MCL and would be unable to make the fight. Had done many times before, the promotion scrambled to find an opponent for Jones, until they did. Chael Sonnen had lost his UFC 148 rematch to Silva in July, but was ready to return in action in the fall if needed. In the number 3 spot, we got Rafael dos Anjos versus Conor McGregor, UFC 196. McGregor has just dethroned Jose Aldo for the featherweight championship and wanted to do something that no fighter had ever done, become a champ. Now a common trend in MMA, McGregor's proclamations about his fighting future were the stuff of epic proportions. When then lightweight champion Rafael dos Anjos was scheduled to face McGregor, it felt like a new era was beginning to emerge. After a pre-fight press conference between the two men, along with a bit of build-up as the fight was nearing its peak, the entire MMA world was changed forever. Dos Anjos had suffered a broken foot just 10 days prior to the bout, which forced the UFC to find a new main event to save the card once again. Unlike the UFC 151 fiasco, the promotion was successful in its new opponent search as Nate Diaz stepped in to face McGregor. Of course, this led to Diaz and McGregor putting on 2 of the best back-to-back fights the sport has ever seen. At number 4, we got Jon Jones versus Anthony Johnson, UFC 187. Before Anthony Johnson put himself in a position to compete in the Bellator Light Heavyweight Grand Prix, Johnson was on a career resurgence in the UFC and was knocking on the door of a long-awaited title shot in May of 2015. Jones was still dominating the light heavyweight division and had no signs of slowing down in the octagon. The Law, however, was a different story. Ahead of his fight with Johnson, Jones was forced to relinquish his light heavyweight title after a hit-and-run incident suspended the champ indefinitely. The fight was never rescheduled again, as both Jones and Johnson went on to 2 separate paths in subsequent years after the cancellation. And finally, we got Dominick Cruz versus Renan Barrow, UFC 169. A lesser-known cancellation of some, Dominick Cruz and Renan Barrow was the dream bantamweight fight that nearly came to fruition. At the time, Barrow was in the midst of a 10-year unbeaten streak that saw him become the undisputed bantamweight champion in the process. Cruz, however, was the division's first champion upon the UFC-WEC merger, but could never stay healthy. But the injury bug struck again when Cruz-Barrow was canceled after Cruz tore his groin in training ahead of their UFC 169 clash. Alright guys, thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know which UFC fight you guys wanted to see the most. I'll see you guys next time and have a great day. Peace.